I was eating cereal in my tiny apartment when the text came. Sold the house. You have 30 days to fetch your junk. It was from my brother, Jay. My spoon clattered into the bowl, milk splashing across the counter like tiny accusations. We had sworn, after Mom died, that we would never sell the yellow house on Maple Street. We had stood in the kitchen with our hands stacked like a team huddle, both of us crying, both of us promising. We had shaken on it like little kids making a blood oath without the blood. I called. No answer. I texted. Nothing. I stared at the cracked ceiling of my apartment and felt the old wallpaper of my childhood peel off inside me, strip by strip. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in like they were trying to squeeze the memories out of me. I looked around at my life, a futon that doubled as a couch, a desk made from a door and 2 filing cabinets, plants dying in mismatched mugs. This wasn't supposed to be permanent. The yellow house was supposed to be my safety net, my eventually, my someday. Now Jay had cut the rope without warning, and I was free-falling into a future I hadn't planned for. I drove over at sunset, my hands shaking so hard I had to grip the steering wheel at 10 and 2 like I was back in driver's ed. The porch swing was gone, leaving only 2 naked hooks swaying in the breeze like empty gallows. The windows looked like shut eyes, blinds drawn against the world. A red "Sold" sign gloated in the yard, planted deep like a conquering flag. I banged on the door until my fist hurt, until my knuckles turned the color of angry roses. A stranger opened, holding a tiny dog wearing a sweater with reindeer on it even though it was July. "Can I help?" she asked, her voice chipper and utterly oblivious to the fact that she was standing in my childhood. I wanted to say, "Yes, give me my life back," but I only croaked, "Wrong address." I walked backwards to my car, watching my footprints erase themselves in the dust, each step another piece of me disappearing. I sat in my car for an hour, engine off, watching the sky bruise purple. Lights came on inside the house, my house, and I saw shadows moving behind the curtains. Someone was cooking. The smell of garlic drifted out, foreign and wrong. Our kitchen had always smelled like Mom's weird experiments. Peanut butter cookies with too much vanilla, spaghetti sauce that took 3 days to make, burnt popcorn from when she tried to multitask during Jeopardy. This new smell was an intruder, an invasion, a rewriting of the story that was supposed to be permanent. Jay finally answered at 2 a.m. I'd been calling every 20 minutes, leaving increasingly unhinged voicemails. "Needed cash," he slurred, his words sliding into each other like cars on ice. "You live in the city anyway. What do you care?" I reminded him of the box of Mom's letters under the attic floorboard, the ones we promised we'd read together someday when we were brave enough. He laughed, a sound like glass breaking in slow motion. "Not my problem. Should have moved faster." I hung up and stared at the black TV screen, seeing my reflection ghost-pale and hollow-eyed. I decided I would not cry. Crying was what he expected, what he wanted. Instead, I opened my laptop and typed the address into a search bar, fingers flying with purpose. The new owner's name popped up like a magic trick, H.L. Price. I spent the next 6 hours internet stalking H.L. Price. Real estate mogul, luxury property specialist, a website full of mansions with infinity pools and wine cellars. What did someone like that want with our modest yellow house with its creaky stairs and the porch that sagged on the left side? I found a contact form and filled it out at 4 a.m., my message a barely coherent plea. "You bought my childhood home. Can we talk? I'll pay for coffee." I hit send before I could chicken out, then finally collapsed into bed, still wearing my jeans. The response came at 8 a.m., waking me from a dream where I was trying to unlock the yellow house, but all my keys had turned to dust. "Hille," the email read, using my childhood nickname that only family used, "Tuesday, 10 a.m. Corner Bakery on 5th. Don't be late." No signature, just initials, HLP. I expected some faceless flipper, a corporate shark in a power suit ready to explain property values and market timing. What I got was a meeting that would unravel everything. I wore my lucky green hoodie, the one with the pizza stain shaped like Florida that I could never quite wash out. It felt like armor, like a piece of the old me clinging on for dear life. I arrived early and drew maps on napkins, ways to beg, barter, or bully my way back home. I rehearsed speeches in my head, each one more desperate than the last. I would offer payment plans. I would promise to rent it back. I would explain about Mom, about the letters, about the promise. A woman tapped my shoulder, making me jump so hard I knocked over the salt shaker. "Hille?" she asked, her voice warm like honey and tea. I nodded, suddenly unable to speak. She smiled like she already knew the punch line to a joke I hadn't heard yet. "I'm H.L. Price." She sat down across from me, elegant in a way that seemed effortless, the kind of person who could wear jeans and a white shirt and still look like she belonged in a boardroom. Her hair was silver gray, cut in a sharp bob, and her eyes crinkled at the corners like she smiled often and meant it. She slid a key across the table. The key. I recognized it immediately, the brass one with the oval head, the one Mom used to hide in the fake rock by the azaleas. My hand moved toward it like it was magnetized, but I stopped, afraid it might vanish if I touched it. "I bought your house for you," she said, her voice matter-of-fact, like she was discussing the weather. My brain blue-screened. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I what? Why would you? I don't understand." The words tumbled out in fragments, puzzle pieces that didn't fit together. She leaned back and ordered us both coffee and croissants without asking what I wanted, the gesture somehow comforting rather than presumptuous. "Your mother and I were college roommates," she began, pulling out her phone and showing me a photo. Two young women, arms around each other, laughing at something off camera. One was unmistakably Mom, same wild curly hair, same crooked smile. The other was H.L. Price, decades younger but with the same sharp intelligence in her eyes. "We stayed close. She talked about you and Jay constantly, showed me pictures, sent me your report cards for heaven's sake." She laughed, the sound fond and a little sad. "When she got sick, she made me promise something. She knew Jay had a gambling problem, knew he'd eventually try to sell." I felt like I'd been dropped into someone else's story. "Mom knew, but she left him the house in the will." "She left it to both of you," H.L. corrected gently. "But there was a clause buried in the legal language. If either of you sold without the other's consent, I had the right to purchase it at market value before any other buyer. Your mother was a planner, Hille. She thought 10 moves ahead." H.L. pushed the coffee toward me. "Drink. You look like you're going to faint." I obeyed, the warm liquid grounding me back in reality. "So the house is mine." "Almost." She pulled out a folder thick with papers, tapping it with one perfectly manicured nail. "I outbid 3 developers who wanted to tear it down and build a McMansion. Cost me more than I should have spent, honestly, but your mother once let me stay with her family for an entire summer when my parents kicked me out for being gay. I owed her everything." She opened the folder. "But there's one string. You must live there for 1 full year before the title transfers to you. During that year, you document everything Jay took, every piece of damage, every theft. At the end, we take him to court. You get the house. He learns a very expensive lesson." My heart pogoed between hope and disbelief. "What if I can't afford?" "You live there rent-free. I maintain ownership on paper only. You pay utilities, that's it." She slid a pen toward me. "Your mother called this Plan B. She hoped she'd never need to tell you about it, hoped Jay would grow up. But she prepared anyway, just in case." I signed her papers with the cafe's chewed pen, my signature shaky but determined. My hand was trembling so hard the letters came out looking like earthquake readings, but it was done. Legal. Real. The house was legally mine again, almost. I wanted to call someone to scream the news, but who? My friend circle had shrunk to 3 people and a very judgmental cat. So I just sat there, holding the key, feeling its weight like a promise kept across the veil of death. I moved in the next weekend with 2 suitcases and a cactus named Thor. Jay showed up midday, grinning like toothpaste. All white teeth and 0 warmth. "Heard you're renting from the new owner," he teased, leaning against the doorframe like he still owned the place. His designer sneakers probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Guess you'll keep the place warm until they flip it, huh?" I let him think it. Inside, I whispered to the banister, running my hand along the smooth wood Mom had insisted we polish every spring. "I'm home, and I'm waiting." The house seemed to sigh around me, settling into familiar creaks and groans. That night, I slept in my old bedroom, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling in 5th grade. Half of them had fallen, creating constellations that existed nowhere but here. I took a photo to send to H.L. with the caption, "Day 1 of Operation Doorknob Justice." Week 1, I found Mom's letters exactly where we left them. I had to move 3 boxes of Christmas ornaments and a broken vacuum cleaner that Jay had apparently abandoned when he realized it couldn't be sold. The floorboard was loose, the same one that had been loose since 1997, the one Dad had always meant to fix before the cancer took him. I pried it up with a butter knife, and there it was, a shoebox wrapped in a Macy's bag, sealed with packing tape that had gone yellow with age. They smelled like cinnamon and rain when I opened them, Mom's signature perfume mixing with the mustiness of years. Each note was written in her looping handwriting, the kind that looked like it was always dancing. Little secrets spilled out, where she hid her rainy day dimes, inside the ugly vase shaped like a chicken that no one would ever steal, how she once dyed the cat pink for Easter on a dare from Dad. The cat had refused to speak to her for a week. How she used to sneak cookies to me and Jay after bedtime and tell us they were dreams you could taste. I laughed so hard I snorted, tears streaming down my face, the good kind, the kind that felt like release. One letter was addressed to me specifically, dated just 2 months before she died. "Hilly Billy," it started, using the nickname that always made me groan. "If you're reading this, something went wrong with Jay. I'm sorry I couldn't fix him, but I fixed the house situation. Trust HL, she's tougher than she looks, and she loved me enough to help you. Fight for this place, baby. Fight like I taught you, with paperwork, persistence, and just enough pettiness to keep it interesting. Make sure Jay learns something. I couldn't teach him, but maybe consequences can. Love you more than the moon loves the ocean." I pressed the letter to my chest and sobbed into the dusty attic air, the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deeper than sadness, grief mixed with gratitude, loss tangled with love. Jay came by later that day to measure rooms for old times. He had a tape measure and a notebook, playing the role of sentimental brother. I offered him lemonade laced with extra ice and zero forgiveness, watching him drink it while mentally cataloging everything in the room. He was casing the place, I realized, looking for what else he could take. "Remember when we used to have those epic water balloon fights in the backyard?" he asked, all false nostalgia. "I remember you charged the neighborhood kids admission to watch," I replied sweetly. "And then you kept all the money." His smile tightened, always bringing up old shit hill. "Just keeping the memories alive, Jay. Isn't that what you wanted? Old times." I discovered Jay had already taken the antique doorknobs before the sale, every single one, even from closets. In their place were plastic ones that cracked if you twisted too hard, cheap replacements from the hardware store clearance bin. I found his auction listings online, each doorknob sold for $60 to $90 apiece. 12 doorknobs, over $800. He'd literally dismantled the house piece by piece before selling it. I printed screenshots of every auction and taped them inside the pantry like horror portraits in a true crime documentary. Every time I reached for cereal, I remembered the crime. I started a list titled "Ways to Scare My Brother Silly." Number 1, replace his shampoo with ranch dressing. Number 2, hire someone to follow him around playing sad trombone sounds. Number 3, create a PowerPoint presentation of his theft and send it to his girlfriend. I never did any of these things, but planning them felt therapeutic. HL Price texted regularly. "Keep receipts. Court loves paper trails." I obeyed like a good student. I logged every missing tile, every stolen light bulb, every picture hook that should have been there but wasn't. I created a spreadsheet with photos, estimated values, and links to his auction accounts. I filmed Jay sneaking in at night with his key, the one I hadn't changed yet on HL's advice, to retrieve memorabilia. He took the toilet handle. A toilet handle. Who does that? Who looks at a toilet and thinks, "Yes, this hardware is worth the effort of unscrewing"? I giggled while filming from behind the bathroom door, which ruined the evidence audio with my wheezing laughter. I had to reshoot it the next night, holding my nose for silence. The video looked like spy work done by a 7th grader. Perfect. I sent it to HL with the subject line Exhibit F, the toilet handle heist. Her response, "I'm printing this on a t-shirt." September melted into October, and I began to feel something shift. The house was becoming mine in ways that had nothing to do with paperwork. I fixed the porch boards Jay had cracked dragging out Mom's antique dresser. I repainted the kitchen the exact shade of yellow Mom had always loved. "Sunshine in a can," she called it. I hung photos on the walls, filling the nail holes Jay's removal spree had left behind. Me and Mom at the beach. Dad pushing me on a swing. Even one of Jay and me as kids, gap-toothed and grass-stained, before everything got complicated. October brought a storm that knocked out power for 3 days. I lit Mom's old candles, the fancy ones from the sideboard that smelled like vanilla and something spicy, the ones we were never allowed to burn when she was alive. Jay arrived with flashlights he probably planned to steal later. We sat on the porch, rain drumming like bullies on tin, and for a moment, it felt almost like old times. "Car's totaled," he admitted suddenly, staring out at the storm. "The sports car I bought with the house money caught fire on the highway 2 weeks after I bought it. Insurance won't cover it because the previous owner had done something to the engine." I laughed until my ribs begged for mercy, the kind of laughter that's half hysteria and half justice. He glared at me. "Easy for you to laugh. You got the house." I smiled lightning-wide. "Not yet, Jay, but I'm close." I invited him inside for cocoa, extra marshmallows, playing the role of forgiving sister. While he slurped, I casually played the toilet handle video on the TV. His face went from confused to strawberry red in 3 seconds flat. "What the hell? Are you filming me? This is blackmail." I shrugged, dunking a marshmallow with precision. "I prefer to call it insurance, or maybe documentation for legal purposes. Has a nicer ring to it." He lunged for the remote, trying to delete the video, but I'd already backed it up 17 times in cloud storage accounts he couldn't pronounce and definitely couldn't access. "You're crazy," he hissed. "Possibly," I agreed cheerfully. "Or maybe I'm just Mom's daughter. She taught me to plan ahead." He left soaked and swearing, his stolen flashlights forgotten on the coffee table. I waved through the window, already mentally rehearsing tomorrow's chapter of our little drama. November kicked in the door with cold feet and shorter days. I decided to host a yard sale, dragging out everything Jay had left behind in his hurried pillaging of portable valuables. His old guitar with 1 string, comic books warped by soda spills, a collection of participation trophies from sports he'd quit, concert t-shirts from bands he pretended to like. Neighbors came for gossip and bargains, and I gave them both. "All proceeds go toward replacing doorknobs," I announced cheerfully, gesturing at a jar labeled Doorknob Justice Fund. They laughed like we were sitcom extras, that delighted laugh of people watching drama that isn't their own. Jay arrived midway through, red-faced and furious. "You can't sell my stuff." "You abandoned it," I countered sweetly. "Legally, that makes it garbage. I'm just recycling." The crowd that had gathered actually booed him. An elderly woman bought his guitar for $5 and told him he should be ashamed. A kid asked for his autograph, thinking he was the villain in a play. "Are you the bad guy?" the kid asked, wide-eyed. Jay fled, and I sold the rest of his junk for $73, every penny going into the doorknob jar. HL. Price mailed me a glittery envelope that shed sparkles all over my floor like tiny pieces of celebration. Inside, a court date stamped December 15 and a note in her sharp handwriting. "Dress like the hero, not the victim. Confidence is half the battle. I've hired a lawyer. Her name is Patricia Kim, and she eats men like your brother for breakfast. You're going to win." I practiced testimony in the mirror, but kept giggling at the word doorknob. How do you say doorknob seriously in court? How do you explain that your brother is such a petty thief that he unscrewed every single knob in a house before selling it? Thor the cactus sat on the bathroom counter, looking unimpressed with my performance. I dressed him in a tiny tie for moral support. He still looked like a green middle finger. I took that as encouragement. December 1st, I baked cookies shaped like houses using Mom's old cookie cutters. I made them perfect, crisp edges, smooth icing, little details in contrasting colors. I left a plate on the porch with a card. "For the boy who traded home for ashes." It was pretentious and dramatic, and I loved every second of it. Jay ate them, crumbs trailing like guilty footprints up the porch steps. I watched from behind the curtain, my phone recording. He stopped at the last cookie, holding it up to the light like he suddenly realized I might have added something. I hadn't except extra salt, just enough to make them taste like tears. His spit take sprayed the railing. I recorded it, added dramatic music, and sent it to HL with the caption Exhibit Q, salt cookies. Her response was a single emoji. the crying, laughing face. I mailed Jay an advent calendar that I'd made myself, printing tiny photos and gluing them behind numbered flaps. Behind each door was a photo of something he stole. Day 1, the garden gnome. Day 3, the porch swing. Day 8, Mom's silver thimble. Day 12, a doorknob shot in dramatic black and white. On day 12, he texted, "Stop haunting me. This is harassment." I replied, "Only 18 days left till justice. Merry Christmas." I signed it with a Santa emoji. He blocked my number, but I had carrier pigeons of sarcasm still flying. Email, Instagram, leaving notes in his mailbox written in letters cut from magazines like a ransom note. Court day arrived cold and clear, the kind of winter morning that makes everything look sharp-edged and crystalline. I wore Mom's old locket with her picture inside and my green hoodie, stain carefully hidden under a blazer that HL had loaned me. "Power dressing," she'd insisted. "We're not going in there looking like victims." Jay showed up in sunglasses indoors, like he was trying to go incognito at his own trial. The judge, a woman who looked like she'd seen every possible version of family drama, raised an eyebrow so high it nearly reached her hairline. "Mr. Morrison, unless you have a medical condition, remove the sunglasses in my courtroom." He did, revealing bloodshot eyes that suggested he'd slept as poorly as I had. We presented our case like a true crime documentary come to life. Patricia Kim, the lawyer HL had hired, was magnificent, sharp-suited and sharper-tongued, with evidence organized in color-coded binders. We had receipts, videos, auction screenshots, witness testimony from neighbors. The piece de resistance was an actual doorknob presented as Exhibit A, held up in a clear evidence bag like it was a murder weapon. "Your Honor," Patricia said, her voice carrying perfect disdain, "the defendant didn't just sell a house without his sister's consent. He systematically stripped it of fixtures, fittings, and family heirlooms before the sale, then claimed he needed money for family finances." Jay's lawyer, a tired-looking man who seemed like he'd rather be anywhere else, attempted a defense. "My client was under financial pressure. He made poor choices, but—" "Poor choices," I coughed into my fist, "sports car fire." The gallery snickered. Even the stenographer's lips twitched. The judge shot me a warning look, but her eyes were laughing. Jay claimed he'd sold the house to save family finances and preserve their legacy by preventing foreclosure. I wished I could sink into the floor. We'd never been close to foreclosure. The house was paid off. He was lying under oath, and not even convincingly. "Your Honor," Patricia said smoothly, "the house had no mortgage. Property taxes were current. The defendant sold it to fund personal expenses, specifically a $47,000 sports car that, according to insurance records, was destroyed 17 days after purchase." She held up the documentation. Meanwhile, Ms. Morrison was given 30 days' notice via text message. Recess, H.L. Price squeezed my shoulder in the courthouse hallway. "You're winning," she whispered. "Kim is destroying him." I went to the bathroom and ugly cried in triumph, the kind of crying that comes with hiccups and snot and total loss of dignity. Jay walked in wrong bathroom, apparently, or maybe he was just that rattled mid-sniffle. For once, he didn't smirk. "I'm sorry," he muttered, staring at the tile. "I know I screwed up." I blew my nose trumpet-loud into a wad of toilet paper. "Too late, Jay." But even as I said it, I felt something heavy roll off my back and plop onto the tile. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of letting go of the anger that had been burning in my chest for months. "I didn't think you'd fight this hard," he admitted. "I thought you'd just let it go." "That's always been your problem," I said, wadding up the tissue. "You thought I was weak, but Mom didn't raise weak kids. She just raised one who actually learned her lessons." The judge ruled before the day was over, her voice clear and brooking no argument. Jay must repay me the difference between fire sale price and real appraised value, plus every stolen item documented or its cash equivalent. The list was read aloud. 12 doorknobs, 1 porch swing, 43 light fixtures, 1 toilet handle, 17 pieces of furniture, 8 family heirlooms. Total, big enough to make his ears ring and his face drain of color. He slumped like a deflated parade balloon, his lawyer patting his shoulder with the sympathy of someone who knows they just lost badly. I almost pitied him, almost. Outside, local reporters asked for quotes. Apparently, woman fights brother in doorknob lawsuit was slow news day gold. What would you say to others in similar situations? A young reporter asked, shoving a phone in my face. I thought of Mom, of her letters, of her planning ahead even from beyond death. Don't trade memories for marshmallow dreams, I said. And document everything. Seriously, take photos, keep receipts. The courts love paperwork almost as much as they love justice. They ate it up like campfire s'mores, and the clip went semi-viral on local news. My inbox filled with messages from strangers sharing their own family property horror stories. I responded to a few, always ending with, "Get a good lawyer, take photos, don't let them get away with it." Jay sold his condo to pay the debt, a humiliating downsizing from his trendy downtown place to a studio apartment above a laundromat. He asked to crash in the attic of the yellow house, just until spring, his voice small in a way I'd never heard before. I could have said no, should have said no, according to every friend I asked for advice. But something in me, maybe Mom's voice in my head, maybe just exhaustion from holding on to anger, made me agree, with conditions. I charged him rent, payable in chores, and one embarrassing story nightly. He had to document his confessions in writing, sign them, and I got to display them however I wanted. It was petty and perfect. Night 1, he confessed he once glued my favorite doll to the ceiling and blamed it on the cat. I made him write it in calligraphy. He had to watch 3 YouTube tutorials first and hang it on the fridge. Thor the cactus presided over the ceremony like a tiny judge, still wearing his court tie. "This is humiliating," Jay muttered, tapping up the confession. "Good," I said cheerfully. "That's the point." Night 2, he'd sold my Beanie Bobbies at a garage sale when I was away at college and told me Mom had donated them. Night 3, he'd been stealing money from my piggy bank for years, replacing dollar bills with Monopoly money. Night 4, he'd sabotaged my prom date by telling him I had a serious boyfriend who was kind of violent. The confessions kept coming, each one a small weight lifted, a truth finally spoken. By week 3, we'd fallen into an odd routine. He'd come home from his new job, humiliatingly working at the same hardware store where he'd bought the replacement doorknobs, and find his chore list on the kitchen table. Dishes, laundry, fixing the loose board on the back steps, cleaning gutters. Each task a small penance, a rebuilding of trust one chore at a time. We didn't talk much at first, but slowly in the quiet moments between confessions and chores, something shifted. He asked about my day. I asked about his. He admitted the hardware store manager was teaching him about quality fixtures, and he felt bad about the cheap doorknobs every time he saw them. I told him about the writing I was doing, a book based on everything that had happened. "Am I the villain?" he asked one night, halfway through scrubbing the kitchen floor. "Yes," I said honestly, "but villains can have redemption arcs, if they're willing to do the work." Spring arrived like a promise kept, tulips poking through the front yard in the exact spots where Mom used to plant them every year. I replanted Mom's herb garden, following the diagram she'd left in one of her letters. Basil waving at the sky, rosemary for remembrance, thyme for courage. Jay painted the porch sunrise yellow without being asked, whistling off-key while he worked. Every brushstroke felt like forgiveness dipped in caution, hope mixed with healthy boundaries. We toasted with lemonade in mason jars when he finished, clinking them together on the newly painted porch. "Thanks for not burying me in the backyard," he said, trying for a joke. "Tulips need fertilizer," I replied. "Maybe next year." We both laughed until the neighbors came out to see what was funny, and then we laughed harder, the kind of laughter that sounds like freedom. One year ended on a Tuesday, unremarkable except for its significance. The house was legally, finally, forever mine. The title transfer happened in Chel's office, her signing over the deed with a flourish. "Your mother would be so proud," she said, pressing the papers into my hands. "You fought smart." I threw a party with a bouncy castle shaped like a doorknob. Yes, they exist, and yes, I special ordered it. Jay gave a speech, his voice cracking with genuine emotion. "I'm sorry for being the worst brother in history," he said to the assembled crowd of neighbors, friends, and even a few people from the hardware store. "I stole from my sister, betrayed our mother's trust, and literally unscrewed doorknobs for petty cash. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm working on deserving a second chance." He turned to me. "Hille taught me that consequences matter, that paperwork is powerful, and that revenge tastes like cookies with too much salt. She also taught me that family can be rebuilt, one chore at a time." He held up a golden doorknob, an actual high-quality one, expensive and shining. "I bought this with my first real paycheck, for the front door, because we're done with cheap replacements." The crowd cheered. I announced I was turning the attic into a writing nook and community space for local kids who needed a quiet place to do homework or write stories. My first project, a children's book called The Boy Who Traded Home for Ashes. Jay autographed the first draft copy, signing "Villain-turned-gardener" with a shaky hand. H.L. Price dropped by the party wearing an actual cape for flair, because she was dramatic like that, and I loved her for it. I handed her the first finished manuscript. She wiped a tear, smearing glitter eyeliner down her cheek. "Your mom would laugh so hard at this," she said, flipping through pages. "Especially the toilet handle part. She always said the best stories were the ones nobody expected." I pictured Mom on the porch swing, lemonade in hand, probably wearing that ratty gardening hat she refused to throw away, the cat pink as Easter sitting in her lap. The circle felt complete, like the last piece of a 1,000-piece sky puzzle finally clicked under my thumb, revealing the full picture at last. Sometimes Jay and I walk to the street corner and stare at the spot where the sold sign once stood. We imagine parallel worlds where we lost everything, where I never found HL's email, where the developers bulldozed the yellow house and built something soulless in its place. Then we walk back inside, count the doorknobs, 12, shiny and new, plus the golden one on the front door, and lock the door on fear and regret and all the what-ifs that haunt quiet moments. The house breathes around us, warm and cinnamon-safe, exactly the way Mom intended. We've added new memories to the walls, Jay's confessions framed in the hallway like a gallery of growth, photos from the bouncy castle party, a corner dedicated to Mom's letters displayed behind glass. The attic space opened last month, and 3 kids from the neighborhood come every Tuesday and Thursday to write. One of them is working on a story about a magic doorknob. I help him with metaphors. Jay helps him with hardware accuracy. We host a monthly dinner now, cooking from Mom's old recipes, the ones written on stained index cards in her dancing handwriting. Sometimes we invite HL, who brings wine and stories about Mom's college days that make us laugh until we cry. Sometimes it's just us, 2 siblings learning how to be family again, one meal at a time. Revenge, it turns out, tastes like fresh cookies shared with a brother who learned the hard way that you can't flip family for quick cash and expect the walls to forget. But forgiveness, I've learned, tastes like work, like chores completed, confessions made, and doorknobs properly installed. It tastes like lemonade on a painted porch and tulips pushing through spring soil. It tastes like home, rebuilt from the foundation up, stronger for having been broken and choosing to repair rather than abandon. The yellow house stands on Maple Street still, paint fresh, doorknobs gleaming, garden growing wild and beautiful. Inside, 2 people who share blood and history are learning that family isn't just what you're born with. It's what you choose to build, maintain, and fight for when someone tries to take it away. And sometimes, with enough determination, good legal counsel, and a little help from beyond the grave, you can win back what you thought was lost forever.